Hi, my name is Dr. Philip Alexander, and welcome to the World Revolution podcast. I'm here with a beautiful man that I've connected with through social media. He's come from Cork Island, and now he's in Sydney, Australia. Daniel Twomey, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So just a little summary of what you've been doing with yourself. You're an owner and founder of Depression to Wellbeing. You used to be a primary teacher of PE, physical education. You're also a university lecturer in PE and sports studies, and you're a personal trainer.
Almost correct. Almost correct. Post-primary physical education, so high school.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but other than that, that's all correct. So Depression to Wellbeing is my business, and it's also like well-being advocacy, but my skill sets to be personal training and physical fitness, and then I just incorporate as much of the of mental health kind of guidance and lifestyle advice and talk therapy, but it's very much with a physical emphasis. But yeah, my passion would be in the area of mental health, but my experience and my education up to now would be primarily to physical health. But I'm currently studying for my PhD as well in physical activity and positive mental health. So it's that sphere I'm in.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. What made you focus your attention on mental health?
There's a few reasons. Well, primarily, the reason behind it, or my passion, would come from a real experience that I personally had myself. So, in my early 20s, I would have really, really struggled with my mental health, like very, very serious depression, anxiety. I would have been hospitalized from that. So like I was in such a dark place when I was in my early 20s. I'm talking like 22, 23. And 10 years later now, I just want to help. I just have empathy and compassion. And as a teacher, you know, I would have been working with a lot of young people, and I'm very much empathetic towards them because I know what it's like, and to be isolated and to feel there's something abnormal or not being comfortable speaking about these things. And it's isolation is the problem. So, are one of the major problems, at least. So I'm really trying to act in solidarity with these young people and trying to help them as best as I can. And, you know, I'm not a qualified psychologist. I never would pretend to be. It's just lifestyle advice on how we can do things in our day-to-day life to improve our mental health. And I also try to encourage and to help, you know, direct people to the professionals in the sphere. But it's very much just a listening ear I offer.
All right. Well, this podcast, I like to share people's journeys because I think everybody's life is an example of finding ourselves. And so for me, the curiosity is, you know, what made Daniel Twomey who he is today? How did it start? What was it like growing up in Ireland as a kid in your family setting, and how did you develop into this person that you are today?
So I had a very fortunate upbringing. Like, there's not really much I could complain about. Like, my parents are both teachers. Like, pretty stable background. You know, would have been very much involved in sports. Would have been, you know, doing fine in school. Part of the community. Felt like that I had security. I maybe based on like a young man's insecurity, I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to do very well in everything that I did. And I suppose that just came from ignorance and lack of experience. But I just thought that I could do well in everything. And I just put a lot of pressure on myself. And like, generally speaking, I used to, and I didn't feel the pressure. Like, I was just getting on fine in school, and, you know, I was getting on fine with girls, and I was getting on fine with sports and all this sort of stuff. So maybe I didn't have enough resilience built up or whatever. But, you know, it wasn't all rose in the garden. Like, I would have had the same trials and tribulations as any other child or teenager. But I never really came up against anything too tough until I suppose I was in university, and I would have had a real kind of traumatic experience at that time. And up until then, I felt as though I was kind of the captain of my own ship, and I could put myself and lend myself to lots of different things. And I felt as though I was in total control of my life. Up until I was about 22, and I did something very silly that got me in a lot of trouble, and everything was in jeopardy. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I'm not in control here anymore. And everything that I had done to bring me to that position of strength was all in jeopardy. And I just struggled, Philip. I really, really struggled. And maybe it's because, as I alluded to, maybe I didn't have enough to come up against when I was younger. But in terms of my upbringing, wonderful family, brothers, Simon and Owen, just wonderful people, such supportive parents who all they wanted was the best for me. Lovely community, and anything in terms of personal characteristics that I would have liked to have, I was happy enough in myself. But then I suppose I got the flip side of it in my 20s, and since then, and it's been like a decade of recovery for me. At the start it would have been very kind of steep, and I needed a lot of help and a lot of supports. But since then, I've just been chipping away and researching in terms of like, how can Daniel reduce his own anxiety? How can Daniel stop himself from ever getting to that level again? And I just researched, read every book I could on depression, anxiety, just for my own self. And this was me in my bedroom in Cork or in Limerick or wherever I was at the time, just to support myself. I'm making notes and I'm, doing all this stuff. Then all of a sudden I was like, I can turn this passion into a profession or a career. And, I'm, the PhD, a lot of it, I have a lot of this research done, but it was just for me to kind of save myself and to make myself the best version of me that I could be. And I'm very proud of the man that I am and very happy. And in a weird way, and this is a weird thing to say, I'm grateful for that experience, because as a man at 34 years of age now, I feel as though I am more resilient, and I do have this internal strength now that I wouldn't have had when I was younger.
Right. And this situation that happened at university, what happened?
So I suppose, given the context, I would have done 1 year of university in Cork, where I'm from, and I was studying business and information systems, so a business/IT course, and did very well. I would have just had a kind of I understood, economics and statistics and finance and things like that. So I did very well, got a first class honours, but I just knew that it wasn't a career for me. I knew I could do well and I probably could get a good job, but I wouldn't be satisfied. So after 1 year, I transferred to another university to become a teacher, like my parents. And like, my dad is my absolute role model. He's the greatest man I know, and he's everything I wanted to be then, still is now. But I followed him. He went to University of Limerick to the education. I did the same thing. Did 3 years University of Limerick, very happy with my results, very sociable, getting on fine. And then in my penultimate year, so coming to the end of third year, but it would be my fourth year in university altogether, I just got myself into a troubled situation. There was an altercation in a bar that was attached to the university, and it was something that I ended up throwing a punch in a bar, and I'm still so embarrassed to my core to say that, because I'm just not that guy, and I never was that guy.
You gave someone a shiner.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Context-wise, played for a football team and played against this guy's team, and he punched out my teeth. Like, that's a fake tooth. And,
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, I've nothing. Look, it's just a terrible, terrible situation. I don't blame anybody for it, and it was absolutely my fault that evening, and it was the worst mistake of my life. But I asked this guy just for contact information so that I didn't have to ask my father to pay for my dental details. Everybody, that knew the context just couldn't believe. First of all, I didn't retaliate on the spot, and then afterwards, everybody just understood. He just gave me fake information, and kind of took advantage of. I didn't react on the day. I was picking up teeth out of my hands, and I was like, "Wait, I can't ask my father to pay for this." So I asked this guy for his contact details, so I contacted him after the dentist, and it was all misinformation he gave me. And then one night I was out for my friend Matt Root's 21st birthday party in college, and had a few beers on, and was out socializing with my mates, and I just saw him, and he saw me, and he laughed, and I reacted in a poor way, terrible mistake, and thank God, I'm so grateful that nothing came of it. But at that time, everything was in jeopardy. I was, being told that potentially I wouldn't be allowed to graduate. The police were involved. I had solicitors telling me that, Daniel, you won't go to prison, but you will get a criminal conviction for this. All the evidence is against you. And I was trying to be a teacher, and I'm an empath, and I never did anything like this before. So my world kind of came all in around me, and I didn't know what to do for the first time in my life, and I struggled, and it got to a point where I was suicidal. I thought I'd ruined my life, and there was nobody to blame but myself as well, and when I had to like, at the time with the police involved and everything, I was coming up to the exams, I just had to check out. So I checked out of university under loads of people's guidance, but then sure, all I was doing was lying in bed at home, and because of stigma that's related to mental health, I couldn't even tell my friends where I was. My friends in college thought I was in Cork. My friends in Cork thought I was in college in Limerick. I was in my bed in Carrigaline with nothing but my thoughts, and that lasted a year. So at the end of that year, I was suicidal.
Well, why do you think it had affected you so much?
The major thing was I just kept thinking. So when you're in that state of mind, okay, so you know as much as I would. I had to put it on something, and it was kind of like a state of grievance. So I couldn't. I was grieving. I couldn't believe I'd done something so silly. And then I was just like reflecting. I was like, how did I do that? Why did I do that? Why didn't I just go home? And then I got to a point where I was like, why did I go to Limerick? If I stayed in Cork, I would have been safe. You know, I would have got my degree from UCC, and I just catastrophized. But I just felt as though that I had worked so hard to get myself to that position where the future looked rosy. I had a lot of potential. I had done everything right. And I'd worked so hard to get to that point, because like I had to change course and pay like massive fees to repeat first year and come through third year, and I was class rep and playing football, everything you want. And then I made this mistake, and I was just afterwards, it was just a grieving process. And also I thought that I had thrown away everything that I and everybody around me worked to get me to that point. And I was beating myself up to a level that you wouldn't believe, because they were my actions. I did throw that punch. That was me. It was a conscious decision. Alcohol or not, like you can't blame. It was my decision, and I did it knowing that I shouldn't have, and I did. And it just got me into that position, and I just felt like I didn't know. Like my solicitor, my lawyer, told me, Daniel, like I had a summons to court for this assault. Or potential assault, and my legal advice was that, Daniel, you're not going to go to prison. You will get a conviction for assault. And so instead of getting a first class honours degree, I was getting an assault conviction and no qualification at 23. And I didn't know what it was. It was terrifying.
And is that something that your family would have been shocked to hear as well?
Yeah, well, like growing up, like I would be a kind of a passionate guy, and I would be, you know, quite a physically aggressive footballer. And even though in society I wouldn't be, like I would have had, there is an underlying aggression there, I guess. And as a kid, it might have got me in trouble, but never as an adult. So yeah, they were very surprised for me to do something at that age. Yeah. And everybody in my class, I remember Miriam Marr, she's a girl from Kilkenny that like was my friend at the time. She's like, Daniel, I heard a rumor that you threw a punch last night. That couldn't possibly be true. Like you couldn't punch anyone. But unfortunately I did, you know. And so everybody was surprised, but everybody was terrified. My parents were terrified, you know. Like they're teachers, they're academics, and they knew how hard I'd worked to get to that point. And they were getting the same information that I was, you know.
So I feel like just the way that you've been brought up in your family environment, when this happened, it was just such a shock, because it's just so out of character in a way. And it does really, I suppose when we grow up, we have these ideals, or we want to have a career in something. And when something like this happens, it really just throws everything out the window. And that's when you start to get into that mode. Yeah.
Totally. And like if that happened to me now, I feel as though I could roll with the punches. But as a 22 or 23, that's just been like within a bubble, and everything just didn't know of anything like this, you know. And I'd love to speak to my younger self. So like my kind of what I'd say a lot is like my raison d'etre, like my purpose now is to be the guy I needed when I was younger. So I'd just love to sit younger Daniel down and go, you know what, you know, worst case scenario, this all stuff happens, everything goes through. You'll still be a success. You'll make it work. You might be a teacher. You mightn't get a degree, but you'll still have a successful life. You'll still be happy. You know, you'll still go on and do the big things in life. You'll have a family. You'll have friends. You'll have everybody that loves you around you. So like, and those are all true, you know, and everything could still have succeeded, or whatever I wanted from life could still have been achieved. But I was fixated on this. I suppose it would have been like a lot to do with perfectionism as well at that point. I just thought everything in my life should be perfect because I've been working so hard, and you know, there would have been definitely that as a younger man, and also the conspicuousness of everything. I felt as though that if the word got out that I'd done something so silly and all these things, you know, I'm just catastrophizing. I'm thinking, what will everybody think of Daniel? And you know, I'm not that guy, and you know, everything was just the worst thing to happen for 22-year-old Daniel. But it is what it is, and you know.
Yeah, I completely relate with you. Myself, like my background is very academic, culturally. Getting self worth from a degree or a status in education. And I went through school really trying to get grades to get into medical degree, and I kept failing. Like after high school, I had one of the lowest scores. It came nowhere close to what would be required to get into medical school, and I was really ashamed because in our community, people just ring up and they talk, "What's your son doing? What grade did he get?"
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff. And so I actually had to lie. Like I got into a science degree just to try and bridge my way into to medicine because I was still really hopeful. I had this thing in me where I wanted to be a healer. That's why I moved into medicine. But at the same time, I think my family also wanted to show or have this self worth that my son's a doctor, and and for me too. So I had this perseverance, and I was like, I'm never going to give up. But I kept on getting wounded every time. Like I'd keep,
Mm.
even when I was in university, I was failing subjects. First and second year, I nearly got expelled, and it was all just, I suppose it would be self confidence, just
Yeah.
believing in yourself. And I think until you reach a point where things are on the line, and you're about to lose everything, that's when you just wake the fuck up, and you just
Yeah, man.
yeah. Um, mm.
Totally.
And
And then it's a matter of priorities, and like perspective. Like afterwards now, I'm like, like I don't care about this stuff anymore. I just realize what's important. I tell my parents I love them every single day. My friends, my brothers, these are the things that matter. Like if you took away every qualification from me now, I wouldn't care. Genuinely wouldn't care. Like I just see things differently now, and I get such joy from the little things, and I notice the little things. I could be dead, I could be dead, and it was that close. And I'm not even. This is not, pie in the sky stuff. I very nearly died in 2008. It was a near death experience, and the threat was me. The threat was my own mind. But that being said, it was a near death experience, and I survived it, and I'm a different man, and because of it,
so how did you then shift into focusing on mental health and wanting to be able to offer this to people going through something similar?
It wasn't really linear. I wasn't even that conscious, I don't think. So I suppose more than even my actual real research or the qualification, it's something that I would have read most about. I was like, what happened to you, Daniel? And like, can we get an understanding on this? And then also, let's just never let this happen again. Just whatever you have to do to make sure that you're strong going forward. So I had spent from 2008 to like I only entered this sphere about 18 months ago, 18 months to 2 years ago. I was in Dublin. My girlfriend at the time was in Dublin. I was lecturing in UCC, and I had the opportunity, a position came up in UCC for a PhD in physical activity, positive mental health. And like, I just had alarm bells going. I was like, all right, I'm teaching in UCC. I'm teaching in the Department of Physical Education and Sports Science. This PhD is within the department. My friend, Dr. Wesley O'Brien, was in control of the PhD and deciding who was to get it. He was the person that informed me, because I went to him first saying, no, I'm thinking of doing a PhD now in this area, because you wouldn't get a tenured professorship without it. And he was like, no way, Dan. I was like, I just got the green light to run this PhD from here. I was like, what are the chances of this? So we were sitting down, and he was kind of prepping, he was like, this is going to come up. And it was like, just throw your name in the hat.
Right.
So that's what I did. So I applied for the PhD in UCC. At that point, I just professionally, I wouldn't be in contact with Wesley. He just told me it was a heads up that this is coming up. So I applied, very strong application, went through the interview rounds, and I didn't get it.
Right.
So there was a better applicant for this particular PhD. She had the same qualifications that I had, but about 10 years experience in mental health. So she got the nod, and I was like, you know what? Fair. I was like, if I was on the interview panel, I'd give it to her too. But then I had a passion for it. I was like, right, I got to make this work somewhere. So I contacted Trinity College Dublin with my research proposal, and wasn't being advertised there, wasn't even on their agenda. And Professor Conor McGuckin, who's in the Department of Education Psychology, he's a psychologist himself, like, Dan, I'll take you on board. So prior to that, Like it just would have been a personal interest, and it stemmed from there. And when I was in Dublin, so just initial research for the PhD, the first year, it's very much, it's not that research heavy in year one of PhD. I'm currently in year two, but this is almost a gap year while I'm out in Sydney, and I have 2 years of hard work left when I do go home. But that first year I was working as a personal trainer, getting opportunities to speak about mental health. And I was like, right, I'm going to set up a business here, personal training, mind, body, well-being coach. Let's use my skill sets. I'm a personal trainer, I'm a PE teacher, but I'm getting paid to speak to people about mental health. And, let's just put the services together. And it's the same words that I would say to like hundreds of people. Like I was just talking here at the Filex conference. I was acting as a host. So the same words that I'd be saying to people on the grand scheme when I'm talking to maybe hundreds of people or whatever, I'm just saying the same words to an individual that would take me as a personal trainer. So.
And so what do you impart on your clients? How do you help people in dealing with mental health?
Very much just lifestyle stuff. This is like, well, if you're anxious, can we just not eat foods that, create anxiety? Can we not put ourselves in situations that cause us to be anxious? Can we get more sleep? If you get 8 or 9 hours sleep, there's a chance of you not, getting to that level of stress and anxiety. It's going to help.
Well, how does? Well, let's stick with that. So if you don't get enough sleep, how does that affect you?
So hormones would be a massive thing. So if you're not getting enough sleep, the deficiency in your sleep levels will make you secrete hormones that will get you to a higher level of stress. And continuously having your body under stress can result in you having a lower threshold to, being anxious or getting stressed out. We've all known the feeling of like not getting a proper night's sleep, and the next day you're just kind of rattled. You're just on edge. Right. So that's a massive part of it. And also, so there's a positive lifestyle cycle and there's a negative lifestyle cycle. So if you're not sleeping, so like consistently not sleeping, you're waking up the next morning and you're lethargic. You don't want to go to the gym, so you won't. You're feeling lazy, so you're going to get an Uber Eats and just to get something dropped to you, some takeaway food. You're not going. You might be inclined. You're feeling bad, so you know what? I'm going to have a pickup. I'm going to go to the pub here and have a few pints with my friends to feel better about myself. And again, and that leads to like less sleep again. So then you're in a negative lifestyle cycle, which results in anxiety. It results in depression. It results in all these negative emotions, but it's based on lifestyle. So like, you don't have to go into too much detail. There's like research on this stuff, but it's just like lifestyle. You sleep 8 hours, you drink 2 liters of water, you move every day. And you get your nutrition on point, and then you have a basis. And then after that, it's like stress management. It's, meditation. It's going on trips, journaling, gratitude, reading novels. They're all like mindful-based exercises that make you feel better. And then it's connectivity and, cold showers. All these things help you to reduce anxiety and stress. And then the more serious conditions that can result in you not looking after yourself, we can avoid them all. Let's just start in the basics.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Meditation for me is one thing that's really important because it just, you've got I think you've got like 68,000 thoughts a day. And if you keep on, if you let your thoughts run rampant and you follow those thoughts, you get lost in it. And before you know it, you don't even know what you're doing. Everything is just unconscious, so meditation, really bringing your focus back to yourself and being the observer of what's going on, gives you your empowerment to choose something that you truly desire or something that resonates with you. What's your take on meditation, and how does that how do you believe it helps people?
I love it. You like everything you just said there. I'm just after completing an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction course here in Bondi Junction. Literally just finished. So the MBSR now is I'm finished with it, and I hope I meditate every single day, and it might be just focusing on my breathing or focusing on like the one listening like a cow. Cows listen but they don't react. It's just like focusing on the noises around you. I do body scans a lot, and I do like quick body scans if I'm going into a position that might cause me anxiety. So I'm a model at home in Ireland, and I'd be on television quite a lot. And prior to going on television, I'm in the back and nobody's looking at me, but I'm doing a bit of meditation. I'm doing like, a body scan, quick one, and then I'm focusing on my breath, and then I'm focusing on things that I can see to come back and center myself, and then the anxiety isn't isn't there. It's not present when I'm on live television. Like, it's just not. Public speaking, likewise. I do these I call them like emergency meditations. Like, we have a couple of minutes here, let's do this before we are performing. But also I meditate daily. So today, now I was on the train, and just opportunities like that. When I'm sitting down with nothing else to do, I meditate. I think it's fantastic. And our brain is, so powerful, and it can go with us or against us. And I want it only to go with me from here on out. So if you don't control your mind, it can lead to rumination. It can lead to, obsession and obsessive thoughts about the past, and that leads to depression. But if you don't put the brakes on, all those thoughts that you just mentioned, they'll all be negative. Also, if we start, thinking about the future and rolling out things in the future and getting worried about, will I be this, will I be that, potentially this could go wrong, oh my god, just something on next week. Well, also your powerful mind will think about that to a level where it actually stresses you out. And then you're actually, what I talked about, the depression, anxiety, the anxiety will stem from, speculating about what the future is and catastrophizing. So we have to slow our minds. And for me, meditation is brilliant, and physical activity works for me too. So I work out and I meditate daily. And thankfully, and I'm so thankful for this, but I'm also proud because it's been a concerted, productive, proactive, strategy that I've taken for the last 10 years. I don't suffer from anxiety, and I don't suffer from depression. And once upon a time, I could not say that. And not only could I not say that, I suffered with the most you can imagine. My doctor at the time told my family and told me that it was the highest risk to suicide that she had ever encountered or heard of. And it was that bad, 2008. And now, thankfully, I haven't suffered with anything for a long time, but that's because I invested in myself.
There's something that I notice about you. Just in our interactions, you always, and even in your posts, you always talk about love, and you always end your posts with nothing but love. Why do you do that? And what is so powerful about it?
It's just so powerful. It's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling to have. I love the people in my life. I love my mom so much. I talk to my mom twice a day. When I'm out here, I talk to my mom twice a day. And time difference, that's a big thing. But I love her, and there's no feeling like that. The feeling of, compassion and love and empathy for another human being. And we're also interconnected. And that's another part of well-being. We have to stay connected. But the people that I really care about, they know. There's no question about it. And I also know, it's reciprocated. And it's just, I think, and I'm a guy's guy, and you know what, everybody tells me they love that. Everybody tells me they love my sign off. And it's just nothing but love. There's no space for anything else in this world. There is no space for anything else in this world. And if there is, and it also nothing but love, I do say for everybody. I'm sending a message from Daniel, nothing but love. But it's also all I'll tolerate. So I'm ruthless in terms of self-care and self-love. And unfortunately, that means there have been situations and individuals that I had to remove myself from, because it's nothing but love that I'm giving, but it's also all I'm willing to receive at this moment. And I think that's how everybody should operate. Life is difficult enough. So nothing but love. It's if I don't have a tattoo. If I had, that's what it would be. And I just wish the whole world operated with nothing but love.
Yeah, I agree. Love is also self-love, and I suppose there's following your intuition in what resonates and what doesn't, and really having your boundaries with that, I think, is important. Yeah,
it's healthy. It is healthy, and self-love is so important, because there was one point where I actually hated myself for my decisions, and is hate too strong a word? I do say nothing but love. I'd like to think that's the first time I actually said that, because I used to think that I couldn't hate, and I couldn't tell you anybody else that I would ever consider that are close to me saying that I hate them. 2008, I hated myself. Yeah, that is true. So and that's the first time I actually said that out loud or even thought that. But I hated myself. Hated Daniel in 2008, and I felt as though that I was a burden on everybody else, and I felt as though that I had messed up everything for everybody else, and I hated myself because of the decisions I made, but also because of my illness. I hated myself, and I never want to feel that again. And I also don't want anybody. There's 7 billion of us on the planet. There's 7.5 billion. I don't want anybody to feel that way. I don't want anybody to feel self-loathe and self-hate. So if I can help, yeah, I will. Like, what do I have to lose? And it's just like, it's just empathy, mate, and compassion. I really, really know how it feels to get to the depths of sadness and depths of despair, and to feel isolated and alone, and to feel worthless, and to feel self-loathing. So I'm flipping the script, and there's enough haters out there. So I want to back our corner and help others to feel good about themselves. And it's not about me anymore. I'm strong in myself, and I know the people around me that I love for, and they love me, and I have strength in that solidarity, but I have enough self-care and self-love and self-compassion to know I'll be okay. So I'm just trying to help everybody around me now.
This is going onto a slightly different tangent, but what is your spiritual belief about life?
Somebody else, a close friend to me, we were discussing spirituality recently, and I don't really have any concrete philosophy on it. There's a level of ignorance there as well. I don't know enough about spirituality. Like, mine is like, I'm very much physical, mental, based on science, and based on what has been proven and what I research and I can stand over. The spirituality, my grandfather, Michael O'Brien from Clare, he was my mother's father, tough man, like roofer, left school at 11. I wear his hat, and it's a tartan, kind of like Irish paddy hat. I wear it, and I wear it with pride. And I often would have I feel as though he's still watching over, or like I feel as though I have a relationship or communication with my granddad, who passed away a long time ago. I think about him a lot. He was an inspiration to me. He was a Clare footballer, and he passed away when I was young. But like, spirituality, I don't know enough about it, but I don't feel as though when we're dead, we're totally gone. But I don't know enough. Spiritually, I don't consider myself. I was raised Catholic. I was raised Christian. I don't consider myself Catholic or Christian anymore. Recently I thought I would consider myself an atheist. If I fell into any category, it would be atheism. But my friend who was discussing about spirituality, she said I sounded more agnostic than atheist, based on what I was speaking about and the words that I used. But again, I didn't know enough about it at the time, and I still don't. But what I love about that is that I'm an absolute nerd, and I love researching. So this is something that I'm going to invest in, because I do feel we're all connected, and I feel as though that it's not like, no person's isolated, no person's an island, and it's more than like biological relationships. Like, we're all related, and you can feel energy from others, and and there is the connectivity, and there is look, I don't know, but I will know what my philosophy is on that. But I do feel as though there's more to us than just bones, muscles, blood. There is more to us than just the physical.
So as the scientist, how would you describe the idea of God? Some people say it's the universe, some people say it's energy, some people say it's God. There are spiritual teachings that say there is a presence or an isness or just a source from which all things originate from, that exists in us, through us, and around us. What are your thoughts on that?
And again, when I was talking to my friend about this, and like, she would be super spiritual, right? And like, she actually would consider herself a healer as well. And I was fascinated by these conversations because I'm so ignorant. Like hands up, I know nothing about this. And like, I think even nothing is exaggerating. Well, it's what, less than nothing, I don't know. But I don't know enough to actually engage in a dialogue with it. But I've learned a bit. Right? Do I believe in I don't consider myself religious. So like, if I go to a church now for some form of ceremony, I feel a bit hypocritical, or I feel a bit, I don't know. And it's this funny one, because I always thought I was a passive Catholic. I thought that's what I am, and I am a Catholic, but I'm just not practicing that much, but I am. So, and that was just my internal thought of myself. I moved to Dublin about 2 years ago, and I would have lived by myself in my own apartment for about 7 months of that. And I just really invested in myself. So I was like buying personality tests, IQ tests, just reading about myself, finding out my strengths, finding out my weaknesses, just focusing on building myself. I really just took that as an opportunity to just build myself. I felt as though like mentally and physically I was in a strong place. I was like, right, let's level up now. Let's figure out how we can do, get on well professionally or academically or whatever. So I invested in this IQ and personality tests from Mensa, and the personality test was like, it was massive, and it was all different categories. And one of them was religion. And at the end of the personality test, I read through all my results and I was putting all together. I was like, I was happy with a lot of it. I wasn't too happy with some of it, but it is what it is. And I wasn't surprised by any of it, bar one. And it just said, you are not religious at all. And like, that was the feedback I got from this. And everything else was like, I felt it was really accurate. Whether I wanted to hear it or not, I felt that the personality, the feedback I was getting was accurate. And they said, like, I was bottom of what it could actually be in terms of religion. But I do know that spirituality is separate to organized religion. So after that, I thought I was an atheist. And now I think I'm more agnostic. I think there is, and if I was to, based on my research, if I was to fall into an organized religion, I'd be a Buddhist. I feel as though there's a lot in the religion of Buddhism that I'd really, really stand over. Like it just, for me as a person, it fits. But to answer your question, as a scientist, what do I think God is? I don't know. Like, I don't know. And I feel as though, like, I do believe in like evolution, and I do believe that, my strongest area would be in biology and human development and things like that. So I don't really think of God as the creator, but I do feel as though there is something more than you and I. And I think and I do, but I don't know what that is or who that is or whatever. But spiritual, I would consider myself, from that conversation or the ongoing conversation I'll be having on it, I do feel as though I'd be spiritual without being religious, if that is possible.
Yes, I believe so. I think that's what I am. And I think you're spiritual too. I think spirituality has become a label, but anyone that just has an understanding of energy, I would say is spiritual. Like you mentioned, you mentioned the term empath. What does that mean for you?
So empathy, by my definition, would be feeling other people's pain or feeling other people's emotions. And I do. And it's often to my detriment. And my mother was the same, and it was definitely to my mother's detriment. She put everybody ahead of herself, and she felt everybody's stuff as much, if not more, than she felt her own stuff. And I kind of fall into that category, which has made me super ruthless in terms of looking after myself. Like, I have this philosophy, and I say it quite regularly, is that I'm number one and everybody else is a close second, because I do take on people's stuff and it keeps me up. And, my mother said to me recently, like, Daniel, you're finally happy with everything you're doing. Like, you're happy with your career. You're so strong, mentally, physically, everything. And now you're taking on other people's stuff. It's almost as if you want to, but I can't help myself. Look, I'm a teacher. I'm kids, like I've working with kids all my life, and I just feel people's stuff, and like adults as well. And like a lot of my clients are comfortable talking to me about, lots of stuff that I wouldn't be comfortable talking to anybody else about, because I do genuinely care, and I do take on board how people are feeling, what people feel. And the thing is, they don't even have to tell me. Like I feel it from how they say things, and I can see it in people's eyes, and I it's just something I pick up on other people's emotions. That's what I would say when I categorize myself as an empath, and I feel other people's stuff. And it's not a unique like humanistic trait that I have that nobody else has, because I know for a fact I grew up with, like, my mom would be more of an empath than me, and I just grew up with that,
Right. What do you put, like, how is that possible to be able to feel another person's thoughts?
Well, it's not thoughts, essentially. It's just a high level of compassion, I think, because I do think a lot of it stems from me suffering so much when I was younger that I really don't want to feel it. I can see the triggers as well, so if I can tell if there's somebody in the room really struggling with their mental health, because I could see it in myself, and I knew how I felt or how I looked, and also with the research and stuff, I know the triggers and the indicators that people are struggling. So, and then I just feel bad for them, like I have enough, like the intelligence of the research and the theory. I understand how to pick up on signals and signs that people are struggling. And then when I realize that they're struggling based on what I'm seeing or what I'm experiencing, then I feel their stuff because I felt it myself before, if that makes sense. It's just compassion. It's I can relate, and it's no longer sympathy. Like once upon a time, if I saw somebody that was struggling, I might feel sympathetic for them, but empathy would be feeling it based on experience. So I still feel bad, but it's amplified because I felt bad myself, and I know exactly how they're feeling. But yeah, energy is a hard thing to define or quantify or however way you'd like to phrase it. There's like the aura and things like that, but it's just a multi-dimensional thing that's there's so much. There's so many factors that I would subconsciously be considering when I think about how somebody's feeling. It's not one thing. So it might be how they physically look, how they behave, their mannerisms.
If someone was really angry, like it's quite obvious that the energy that they're projecting onto you is sort of like, oh wow, this person is very clear to see. So,
and you can change a room. Like
yeah.
I'm just at this conference that I'm at this weekend, right? So it's fantastic. So I was a host and I was welcoming people onto stages, giving kind of blurbs about them, and it was good fun. But I got to attend a lot as well. And like there's all the personal trainers and fitness professionals here in Sydney, and they were saying like, our profession is like energy exchange. Like we're kind of like energy coaches. We can transform people's lives from our energy. And those people that walk into a room and the energy shifts because of that individual's presence. And it's not something they say or not something they do, necessarily, but that's energy exchange. So like,
absolutely.
I can't define it. And I'm confident in my words. I can't put words on it.
What are your thoughts on law of attraction? Do you know much about that? Or have you read much about it?
This is a funny one, right? So when I was living in Dublin, my housemate's just lovely, and I just got on so well with the people I was living with. And one of my friends and my housemate at the time, Shona, she would have said, Dan, did you ever read the law of attraction or The Secret? And I was like, no. And then she was like, well, you're living it. I was like, okay, I don't really know. And then I went away and researched it. I was like, yeah, it's just like, you give out positive energy, good things happen to you. You give out positive energy, better things happen to you. And like, I do it, and it's not something I practically think about. And I've always been, I'd like to consider myself a positive guy, and I like, bringing that energy to places. It's never something I was conscious of, or never something I did intentionally or with any ulterior motives, not to better myself or whatever. But it's just true. It's just like if people want to be around you, and there's a good energy off you, well then you're going to get more opportunities because people want you around.
Yeah.
I still haven't read the book of everybody. Yeah, I think so, and I'm a firm believer in you get out of this world what you put into it.
Yeah.
So and that's a form of karma, but it's all so it's so multidimensional. But if you do good for others, they want to do good back for you. If you help somebody else, they'll help you and their friends. You shouldn't need a reason to be a good person, but if you wanted a reason to be a good person, go out doing good because it comes back your way.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately for others, the flip side is also true. So if you go around hating on life and hating on others, and you go around and you're bad energy and you're negative about everything, you're not going to have a good life, mate. It's just like you can't have a positive life with a negative mind. It just won't work, or a negative attitude. And I've seen that as well. And we can all think of people that are like that, and they think the world is against them. It's themselves against them. So but so the law of attraction, from the limited research I have done, is like I'd stand over it, just because if you do look after people, it will be reciprocated, and if you do give good energy, you get it back. But it's not something I would have thought much about or read into too much. But I definitely feel as though when my friend told me that I'm living it or experiencing it, I was like, you know what, you're probably right. It's like, my mother says I was born under a lucky star. She's like, no matter where you go in the world, then you land on your feet. And I was like, I don't know, people help me out. I build good relationships, and you can open doors for yourself, but people can open more doors for you. So I feel as though I get a lot of opportunities because I do genuinely care for people, and I do try to help as much as I can, and I try to be a positive influence wherever I go. And everybody that meets me, I really want them to leave smiling and happy with themselves. And does that give me more opportunities? Probably.
Uh, we've covered a lot of topics, and thank you for sharing, Daniel. I have a round of questions that I ask every
Oh,
guest, and
okay.
these questions are random. So, see
How random.
you'll find out. um, what are your thoughts on aliens?
This is like the same conversation I had with my friend Nia recently. She was talking about aliens too. I don't think about them. I would say as just like a reasonably sound-minded individual, I think we can't just be alone. I don't think that like the universe is so vast that like on the laws of averages, we're probably not the only people that are, our only things that are existing. But do I know anything about it? Absolutely not. But I'd say on the laws of averages, we're probably not alone.
Okay, cool. Uh, what are your thoughts on past lives and reincarnation?
Past lives and reincarnation. I do remember when I was struggling so much in 2008 and I never wanted to die. I just wanted to end my life. I wanted to end the pain and end the torture. And I used to think about reincarnation a lot at the time. I was like, right, you fucked this one, let's go again. Probably since then, look, it definitely gave me a lot of, I don't know, look, reincarnation and past lives. I'd hate okay, so this is what I think, right? I like to think that this is the only life I'm going to get because that is one hell of a motivator. So I want to get everything out of this life now that I've got a second chance. I'm still here. It could have been taken from me 11 years ago. So now that I'm here, I'm just like, right, I want to maximize this life. I want to get everything from it, build everything I want, no regrets. You got another go. Let's smash this. So that motivates me. I'd like to be surprised. I'd like to be surprised. I'd like to die and then they're like, whoa, we got to go again. Sweet. But I'm choosing to believe that this is the only shot I got, because then, you're motivated to do everything you want to do this time around.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
I think that's an awesome way to look at life. Absolutely. Yeah.
no regrets then, and it's like, I feel as though, so I'm 34 now, I could have another 60 years on this planet. And I was like, every year I want to be more productive. And every year I want to smash more goals. And like 34, I'm a pup. I'll be here till I'm 100. We'll see what I can do. And then if I get another go, happy days.
Right. What is one thing you would tell yourself 15 years ago if you could go back in time with what you know now?
Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. It's just like, everything will always work out. So 15 years ago, I'd be pedantic in these sort of things. So 15 years ago, it was 2004. 15 years ago, I did my leaving cert in school. I would say, Dan, don't put so much pressure on yourself. So I was just doing the leaving cert, and I would have, like, I was overall student of the year. I was trying to be the best of everything and I'd say, Dan, just give yourself a break. Life is to be lived, and just enjoy yourself, and come what may, just make sure you're happy. My priority in my life is just happiness at this point. And if I was talking to my 19-year-old self, I'd be like, Dan, just make sure you're happy and don't worry about the other stuff. It's all superficial. It'll all be taken from you at some point. Be happy and focus on the big stuff. And the big stuff for me is my family, is my friends, is my own happiness. And after that, it doesn't matter. If I was back talking to my 19-year-old self, I'd be like, Dan, just take it easy. Alleviate some of the pressure on yourself. Focus on the people around you, your relationships, and make sure that you cultivate the happiest life possible for you. And then everything else will just happen after that.
What are 3 books that have influenced you most and why?
The Power of Now was a very helpful resource for me when I was really struggling. It was all about, being in the moment and focusing on the moment, and that's all that we have. And it's so true. So true. And I read The Alchemist a couple of times now. But
that's an amazing book. Yeah.
And I love the fact that it's actually prescribed as part of the curriculum in America. And it's just like, wow. I was like, everybody should read this book. Yeah. It's just like, go out, live your life, look for omens, just create it, like go on an adventure, live. It's all we got. Just live. Yeah. And another one, I love the picture of Dorian Gray. I'm a big Oscar Wilde fan. And I read that when I was in Trinity College Dublin, and he's an ex-Trinity guy, and I like Oscar Wilde stuff. And it wasn't like I just like it. I don't think it influenced me too much, but that was just a book that came. I got asked the same question on my last podcast, so I tried to change things up there. But another really good one is The Little Big Things. It's a really strong book about prioritizing the important things in life. Really good. I read lots of business books at the moment, so the last 10 books I read are boring. Well, not boring, but not the same.
Useful, but yeah.
And brilliant. Personal MBA, Start with Why, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Think and Grow Rich.
Yes, that's a famous one. Yes.
Think and Grow Rich was really powerful. Personal MBA, really practical. Start with Why. So my why for DTW is to reduce suicide. That is my why. There was 372 suicides in the island of Ireland in 2017. My why is to drop that number. So I focus on Ireland. I'm an Irish guy, and that's why I set up my business, to help young Irishmen and young Irish people in general. 372. That was 2017. DTW will be alive as long as Daniel's alive. And I want to just reduce that number year on year. That's my why. And then that's Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Okay, beautiful. Who is your biggest inspiration?
Mary Twomey, my mother.
Okay. What is your greatest challenge?
My greatest challenge is myself. It's always been myself. Like, the external world isn't that much of a threat to me. I think I can manipulate my way through life quite, like, my biggest threat and biggest challenge is myself, and making sure that my choices don't jeopardize my future. Challenge, that's just, and it's not that much of a challenge. Like, I'm pretty much happy with like where I'm at. But there's always the potential of, making a poor choice or whatever. So I just got to make sure that, like, as long as I look after myself, I feel as though I'd be very optimistic in terms of my future, and in terms of, what I want to achieve. But I do think the biggest hazard to Daniel is Daniel. So I just got to make sure that everything I do in my life, and unfortunately that makes, like, there has to be difficult decisions to be made, but I have a well-being bubble on. So my well-being bubble, and I speak about this a lot, is like an actual like bubble around me, and I don't do anything from the inside to affect Daniel's well-being, and I won't put me in a position where others can as well. So my biggest challenge is just focusing. If Daniel looks after his own well-being, and Daniel does everything right, and looks after his core four, and looks after Daniel's like mental, physical health, spiritual health, happiness, I feel as though everything else would be fine in the future. But I'm not taking any risks. So I'm living a very safe life now in terms of looking after my well-being, and nothing gets into that bubble.
Okay. And is that, I would say, that's your greatest strength?
My greatest strength, what, the ruthless or the resilience?
Well, what is your greatest strength?
I like to think that my communication skills, if this was a professional interview and you were asking me what's my biggest strength, I'd say communication. And that's a two-way street. So I'm being interviewed in this one, so I don't mind taking the lead in terms of talking, but listening is something that I've had to work on a lot, because I am a talker, and, but I've worked a lot on my listening skills. In my profession now as a coach, I just have to, and I'm proud of that now. So I feel as though I've almost got my listening up to my speaking or my verbal skills. So communication, I'll be happy with that. Yeah.
And final question. If today was your last day on earth, what would you do?
So this is probably my strongest philosophy, I say, and it's actually from Mahatma Gandhi. It's live as though you'll die tomorrow, learn as if you live forever. So it's a philosophy that I try to live by. It's just like, as if it is your last day, but learn as if you live forever. So if today was my last day, I'm just going to do what I was doing. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home now, eastern suburbs of Sydney. I'm going to maybe go for a walk on the beach. I'm going to hang out with a few friends. I'm going to think about how grateful I am for everything. I'm going to ring my mother. I'm going to have a nice dinner. I'm going to reflect on the day, and I'm going to go to bed happy, content, and I'm going to sleep for 8 hours. That's what I'm going to do with the last day on the planet.
Daniel, thank you so much for doing this podcast with me. You shared some amazing, an amazing journey and some amazing philosophies in your life. I think so many people watching this will definitely benefit from it. How can people follow you and learn more about what you do?
So my website is www.dtw.ie, and it has links to all my social accounts through that. So that's probably the easiest way. So www.dtw.ie, and then if you're just to Google Daniel Twomey or Depression and Wellbeing, you'll find me easily as well. And I'd be glad to help.
Thank you, brother, and nothing but love.
Nothing but love. Right back at you, brother. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me, okay?
No worries.